Welcome back to another edition of Monday Blitz. As we continue to look at this book of 1 Samuel, I keep finding things in there that just are challenging me, making me stop and think, what exactly is God doing in my life? What is he doing maybe in the lives of those listening? Why are we looking at this book right now? And wow, I didn't know so much was in there. And so as we are looking at this chapter 13, I want to start actually with that famous passage out of Jeremiah 29:11, where God says, I know the plans I have for you. And we can continue on with it, but for the purpose of this, I just want you to stop and think for a moment. God says, I know the plans I have for you. Looking at this chapter in 1 Samuel, this chapter 13, we get this picture of Saul apparently finally taking on the role of being king. And the first action that he does is he calls an army together and decides that he needs to go out and make war with the Philistines. Now, I don't know what that exactly is supposed to look like. I don't know what how that is supposed to help make a country come together exactly, other than, hey, we're a band of brothers and we're going to fight. But we get this odd picture because he pulls everybody together, and of course the Philistines find out you don't draw thousands of soldiers together, thousands of men together, without drawing attention and creating a little bit of noise. And so of course the Philistines come out with all their power, and they sit there for 7 days. It says Saul waits, and as Saul waits, he's waiting for Samuel to come. There's this belief that if God is with us, we can win. If God is not with us, we cannot win. And if Samuel comes and offers a sacrifice, we will win. Well, as the time drags on, closer and closer to the 7 days of waiting that Samuel had told Saul, just wait the 7 days, I will be there. Well, Saul gets impatient, and probably on the morning of day 7, he goes, well, I've waited. Samuel didn't show up. I'm going to step into a place that is not my role. You see, Saul had been given the role of being king. He had not been given the role of being spiritual leader. And sometimes we get our roles mixed up, don't we? We start thinking we have been called to do something God has never called us to do. I know the plans I have here for you, God says. And for Saul, the plans were for him to be king. And literally, here is Samuel's response when he does arrive. You have not kept the command of the Lord your God, the one he gave you. If you had, he would have established your kingdom over Israel for all time. If you would have, he would have. I hope you stop and think about that phrase for your life. If I have done what God has asked me to do, God will do. And what is it that we are praying and hoping God will do for us? Are we staying in his calling for our lives? You see, this command for Saul was nothing, it wasn't just everyday life. It wasn't just the mundane. It was something extraordinary. He was being called to be a leader of Israel. And he had been left in charge of leading Israel, the government side of Israel. And yet, Saul decided that wasn't enough. He needed to expand his role beyond what God had called him to. So what is God calling you to? Are you staying in what he has called you to do? Or are you trying to move beyond that to something greater and bigger? Or maybe you're doubting God. Maybe you can't wait for him to do his work and you think you have to help God out. I don't know where you're at in your walk. I don't know where in this story you fit, which part of the Saul experience you're on. But it made me really stop and think, am I following God's call for my life, or am I trying to do something I wasn't called to do? Am I being patient for God to do his thing? Because he says if I will follow his call, he will do his thing, for he knows the plans he has. Spend some time with God this week thinking about what plans he has for you. and how you can wait on Him and stay in your lane of your calling. Until next time.